Welcome to week 12 of the NAO Show, where the rich get richer and the run for the fourth spot in the playoffs gets a little hairy.
I don't want to talk about
it. Introduce my fantastic co-hosts. We got Marky Mark and Michael with a co-host of his own, Mabel. That's the dog. How y'all doing?
Doing well. Ready to roll here, man.
All right, let's get into it.
All right. Mark. Yes, sir. Let's give the scores here. Going to start off with the Carsonist 128, Frank's Beauties 123. So on a day where Mike got some solid performances, Sean was just a bit more solider, if I can use good grammar. Sean, take it away. Tell us about your matchup.
Well, first and foremost, the matchup like this is why I play fantasy football. I must have checked my score only about 3,000 times to find out that I was only within a point of each other for, 3/4 of the day on Sunday. I think the person that got me over the hump was my man Deshaun Watson. He's having an MVP year on a really, really crappy team, so he won't get nominated for it, but I'm taking all the fantasy points you can get me.
Mike, what'd you think, man? Close one. You had a pretty decent day, but not quite enough.
Yeah, that was a tough one to watch go down, but, like you said, I had a pretty decent day. The highlights that I'm focusing on my positives, Zeke is back. It seems like with Andy Dalton there, 100 yards and a touchdown, I'll take that. I was very nervous about Michael Thomas and what Taysom Hill was going to do to him. But, if he catches slants, it doesn't matter who throws it to him. So the red zone looks are going to be weird, with Taysom being able to run a lot more than Drew Brees can. But, a lot of positives going out for me. It's a tough L to take, but, I had some positives there. I'll take that.
Yeah, you'd had some down weeks. That was a decent one for you. So, tough one there between you guys. All right, next we got defenses wins championships 138 and the Skippy Dogs 115. So this was a big one for Aaron for the playoff race, and he was also the high scorer, despite Marquise Brown with a goose egg. So, Sean, any thoughts on that matchup for Aaron?
Well, I think it's no shock to anybody that really keeps track of everybody in the league, which I'm sure everybody in this league keeps track of everybody in this league. But if you haven't heard, the news on the wire is that Defense Wins Championships is getting healthy. So watch out for him. He's got Chubb back. He put a mild 11 points up this week, but Defense Wins Championships on the way out of this season is not going to be an easy out for anybody.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think he's getting healthy at the right time. Obviously, he got Chubb back last week. He looked pretty great again, 20 carries. We'll see what happens when it's not raining and pouring here in Cleveland. But
what's the weather forecast this Sunday?
Terrible. I think they're in Jacksonville. Though.
Yeah, they're playing away, so they're going to be happy to be in nice, mild Jacksonville. So I would say one thing about Skippy. He's got Henry on his team, and in my other dynasty league, the guy who had Henry was in the championship and lost it both years. But it's Henry time, Henry carried that guy the last couple of years into the playoffs, into the championship, where he was mainly mediocre, So that's if there's anything good for Skippy moving forward, trying to make the playoffs, that could be Derrick Henry time. I'll have to see if it's the same it's been the last couple of seasons. So.
Looking forward, I think Skippy's going to have an issue filling his flex spots because his flex guys are not living up to what he's expecting. I think that's going to be a deciding factor for him moving forward.
Yeah, he's going to have to get probably overachieving from some of the other guys, and Lamar Jackson hasn't quite been there. So, yeah.
That's what I was going to ask what you guys felt about Lamar Jackson. It looks like he doesn't have any other options because his other quarterback is Daniel Jones right now. But, yeah, Lamar Jackson, you think he's underperforming? He's quarterback 9, but
Yeah, the passing's just not there. I mean, his passing grade this year is way down from what it was last year.
Yeah. You expect a regression. I mean, even Mahomes and everybody regressed, but
yeah, and he lost Ronnie Stanley too, and I think that's maybe a bigger factor than we're thinking about. So, yeah, I'd hate to have to count on him to get me through into the playoffs.
He threw it 29 times and only had 186 yards. Like,
yeah.
The fact is that he doesn't have anybody to throw to, besides Hollywood Brown, and where the heck has he been all season?
Yeah. It's not good right now, that's for sure. All right, moving on. Matchup I'd rather not talk about has the under, and I usually round these, but I can't round this one. The underdogs 130.92, and the Bob O'Reilly's 130.76.
That's got to be the closest game we've had all year, huh?
I think it's the closest one I've ever been in. I won another one this year by 0.44, but this beats that even. So that was in my other dynasty league. But yeah, this reminded me a lot about a lot of my matchup with Goofy Jace, that last game and meaning so much. And this time I fell a little bit short. What do you think, Sean? I don't want to talk about it. You can talk about it.
Well, if I were you, I would be very, very, very upset at Miles Sanders right now. 7.6 points. He couldn't get you anything more than that. That's a low day. If he gets you an average day, you win this game.
Yeah, lovely Cleveland weather, and game scripted out pretty much. He had 63 yards in the first half, and I think 3 in the second. So yeah, pretty well game scripted out. How about you, Mike?
I think this one comes down to just the guts on the underdogs. They have Tannehill, who's been playing okay, and they throw in Taysom Hill, who actually outscored Tannehill.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
he was only designated a quarterback in this league, and the guts on him to put that in. Yeah.
Now, I give him credit. They set a good lineup this week. It almost seemed like they were kind of trying to make a statement a little bit, because they put in P. Ryan, who I traded to him, like let's see P. Ryan beat him, and they also put in Fulgham, and he was in trade talks with us earlier before Sean got Mixon. I was talking Mixon, Fulgham, and I was like, did they put them in just to see if they'd score points and they'd say, see, you messed up, man, but those two weren't a big factor, and it was the other guys that did it. So yeah, that was brutal, man. That was a tough loss to take right there. I'd almost rather get my butt kicked than lose that close, Yeah. So, yeah, we can move on from that. We'll go to the next one. We have Goofy Jace at 123 and the Silly Biscuits at 95. Goofy was well below his projection, but he got enough to get the win. So, Mike, what are your observations on that matchup?
I don't want to keep picking on the same game, but again, with the Taysom Hill at quarterback, it's got big fantasy implications, because now we're talking about Kamara.
Yeah.
Didn't catch a pass for the first time in his entire NFL career.
Right.
Are you worried about that if you're Goofy for the next few weeks?
One target, and it's never happened in his whole career.
You got to think Sean Payton's going to tell him, hey, we got this really good running back in the name of Alvin Kamara that you should probably throw to every once in a while. You don't need to run it 900 yards. The point about this game that I thought was interesting was that CeeDee Lamb actually came out and did really well. He had that amazing catch in the end zone where he did like a half Nelson twist, backflip, one-handed craziness. But
degree of difficulty 10 on that, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that was 10 out of 10
on that dive.
They tried to say Thielen's looked better later, but I still give it to Lamb.
Nope.
No, that was, most guys that are making that kind of an adjustment in air don't make the catch. I mean, you see them get close and they don't make the catch. And yeah, he secured that thing. That was pretty awesome, man. Thielen's was good too, but that was just awesome. That was awesome.
Silly Spicy Biscuits should be pretty happy that he knows if once he gets a solid quarterback in Dallas, that he has 2 pretty good wide receivers to bank on. He just needs to wait for the quarterback.
Nice little stack right there for sure. He should trade for Dak. Get the Dak stack. Yeah. Well, that 95 was a pretty low score, but it was not the lowest this week. That was in this next matchup, which had Tua time, scoring 127 to 85 to the real Slim Brady. And what was interesting, it certainly wasn't Tua time this week. He got benched, which was kind of, I don't know. He seemed like he had taken that job over, and he got benched for Fitzpatrick. And then on Dylan's side, everybody hated to see the fact that Burrow got hurt and he's out for the season. So that one certainly hurt Dylan's chances of hanging in this matchup. So Sean, what else could you tell me here about this one?
Well, I'd be amiss if I didn't say anything about my boy Joey Burrow. That was really, really hard to see, but I had mixed. First and foremost, I was really upset at the Cincinnati Bengals for making him drop back 90,000 times a game. But if they're trying to win, he is their best option. So
yeah, he was having a good season. They need to get him a line. They got to invest in a line, man.
And you got to think Julio Jones does a little more than 4 points if he's healthy.
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt him too. Any thoughts, Mike?
Yeah, unfortunately, the Burrow thing kind of hangs over this entire matchup. I don't want to pile on, but it just seems like going through the whole thing, it's just that's what everyone's focusing on. It's just tough to see.
Yeah. Well, we'll look on the bright side. We do have a Mr. Miyagi ass waxing of the week winner. That would be Dylan with the real Slim Brady at 85 points. Paltry 85 points. Dylan couldn't be here to accept this, so he sent me a little message here.
That was very nice of him.
Yeah, he's good that way, man. He says, I could not sit idly by and let my good buddy Josh set a new standard for sucking. Therefore, I did what I had to do to win my third Miyagi. It's nice to be back in any win column at this point. Nice words from Dylan there. So
it's nice of him to think of Hill and try to take it away from him for a little while so he doesn't have to have 16 of them this year.
He's firmly in second place with 3 Miyagi. So congratulations, Dylan, on your achievement. So, Mike, why don't you run down the standings for us, please, sir?
So I think the big thing to note first and foremost is, and you can plug your ears here, Sean, our congrats to Ian, our first playoff lock team. We were kind of talking a lot about it before. There's a lot going on in the standings. There's a lot going on with matchups. We're going to kind of get into some of that a little bit more deep here. But everyone kind of knows where they stand. That fourth playoff spot still up for grabs. That's really what we're going to be talking about. But, yeah, the big thing in the standings still, sorry, Sean, again, congrats to Ian. You're our first one. But, yeah, we'll move on from the standings quickly.
We'll get going into done. I hope that's what happens.
All right. Well, we have normally this is where we talk about trades, and our trade deadline came and went with a whimper. And we just had one trade in this week, which was a kind of an odd trade. The Defenses Wins Championships sent a defense. How do you like that? He sent a defense to the Underdogs for Jakeem Grant. So it was the Washington football team going to the Underdogs for Jakeem Grant. My quick observation on this was that I saw it and I thought, wow, the Underdogs are going all out to beat me this week, even going to pick up a defense. And then they didn't play him. And if they had, they would have won handily. We've been talking about a 0.16 margin of victory. But, they traded for him and then they sent him on their bench, which was kind of weird to me. I'm still waiting for an explanation on that. Sean, tell me on Aaron's side, what do you think about him picking up Jakeem Grant?
I think it finally worked out for him that he picked up all those defenses in the veteran draft, and he finally got something out of it.
He's like, yeah, you watch. He'll be coming to me at the end of the season. People going to need that defense, special teams. I got them. Got you covered. Mike, what you think there?
I think defenses win you championships, but apparently they lose you week 11.
Oh, hot take. Hot take.
All right. All right. Well, we've been moving right along so we could talk a lot about the matchups, and it's going to be a great week going into week 12 here. I'm going to start out with the battles at the bottom. We have all the bottom 4 teams are playing each other this week. We will start out with the Silly Biscuits playing Defenses Wins Championships. So this is a good matchup for Aaron, trying to keep his playoff hopes alive, going against the last guy in the league and the lowest scoring guy. Mike, can you elaborate on this one a little bit? Tell me what you see.
Yeah, I don't want to, assume that Aaron's going to get the win, but like we said, he's getting healthy. Some news came out. Looks like Mostert's going to be there this week, which that's going to be huge for him. I guess magic happens on Thanksgiving. That hot take came out earlier today. So the Cowboys, Lamb and Cooper could have some big games. Who knows what happens there? But I think it comes back down to the standings, and that Aaron badly needs a win this week, and he got a favorable matchup to do it.
Sean,
I think a lot of his matchups, he's got a real good matchup for Allen. He's got a good matchup in Chubb, Hill, Cooks, Boyd. I mean, even if I'm kind of iffy on the Boyd with Joe Burrow being out, but I mean, if you got him, you got to start him. He doesn't have much of an option.
Yeah, his value definitely takes a dip there.
I think if Raheem Mostert comes back, I personally probably would sit Dalvin Singletary. I would sit him and maybe hope that Andrews gets a couple throws to him on Sunday night now, where the Baltimore plays Pittsburgh. Hopefully. I don't think it's going to take much, but if Lamb and Cooper, like Michael said, come out and say we aren't going to lose at home on Thanksgiving, we don't know.
Yeah, Josh has got a decent matchup at quarterback with Wentz. Wentz has been pretty bad, but everybody's done well against Seattle, and I imagine he'll have Wentz in there, and could be a surprise total that Wentz gets him. I did see that Salvon Ahmed was dinged up a little bit now, so he may not have him to put in there. He definitely could, if Dallas can put together another good game like they did last week, then he definitely could put together some points there. But I think with Aaron getting Mostert back, we said he's getting healthier now. He's even getting another piece back that we all know what Mostert can do in just one play. The play he went out on was a 80-yard touchdown, right? I think he ran an 80-yard touchdown and somehow hurt himself on that play, and hasn't been back since. So I certainly didn't mean to just hand this one to Aaron, but it's interesting with Aaron being in 8th place, but having that good point total. This could be a time for him to keep on making that move up into closer to that 4th spot for the playoffs.
He's not out of it by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to a 0.4 potentially, and Aaron being ahead of everybody vying for that spot on 0.4, that's going to be pretty big. Yeah.
I'm certainly keep an eye on him. He definitely can make some noise here, it seems like. All right, let's go on to our next matchup at the bottom. The battles at the bottom. We've got the Real Slim Brady going up against the underdogs. So my question to you, Mike, you're the standings guru here. If all of the 6-win teams lose, are they still alive?
That is actually kind of interesting. And the quick answer is no, but only because of the matchup we have in week 13, skipping ahead a little bit. Sean actually plays Skippy that week in week 13. So no matter what, one of them is going to end with at least 7 wins. And even if the underdogs win out, they only end up with 6. So their points for is actually very high as well. But that one loss where they lost by less than 1 point is probably coming back to haunt them on that one.
Yeah, Steele and I talked about that this week a little bit. I said, man, they lost one like that, and now they won one like that. So they've been on both sides of it. And yeah, he reminded me it was their matchup against Goofy Jace. So they almost took out Goofy, who was, I think, still at the top at that time. But it was both of them had 118 point something, I think it was. So
yeah, it's just came down to the schedule on that one.
What are your thoughts, Sean?
I'm actually interested to see who he starts at quarterback, him being Silly Dilly. I think that could be a pretty big flop. It would help Silly Dilly, I think, if he picks the right quarterback. Because I think with Ryan Tannehill playing Indianapolis, which is a very solid defense right now, it'd be hard to play his team against Indianapolis when they're going to Denver, and Denver has a okay defense. It is a better matchup than Indianapolis right now. I think Silly Dilly needs to think long and hard if that's what she said. If Andy Dalton or Tom Brady is going to be their quarterback this week.
Yeah. Washington's been tough against quarterbacks, and that front line there, the defensive line, and Chase Young, just wreaking havoc, man. And it makes it tough. It gives them a lot less time. So Dalton, hopefully last week was him knocking the rust off and getting back into starting quarterback form. But he's going to have to be making those reads and getting rid of that ball quickly. Who does Tampa Bay have? Was it?
We played Kansas City.
In Kansas City, I think too, right?
Yes.
So,
no, in Tampa.
It is in Tampa. I'm sorry. Okay. So yeah, I don't know. Kansas City has been decent as well. Pretty much though, they got the one short shutdown corner, and then there's other guys that you can do things against. So that's a tough call. But you're right. Quarterback could be a real important for him this week. So, all right. Well, let's move on to some of the games with playoff implications. So if the bottom 4 are all playing each other, that means the top 6 are all playing each other.
Yes.
And so the first matchup in that part of the league is Goofy Jace going up against the Skippy Dogs. So we got the 2 work buddies going at it. The men of mystery among the league, this should be a decent matchup. Skippy Dogs, was down there at the bottom and made a good run up the standings, and a little more shaky the last couple of weeks. So he really needs a win against his buddy Goofy Jace. Mike, what can you add to that?
This one, I'm going to recommend that Skippy does not look at the sleeper projection and see what's going on with that, because he's actually projected about 30 points less than Goofy right now.
Wow.
I know there's probably some lineup decisions to be made, but yeah, I just would avoid looking at that. Focus on your own lineup for this week.
Yeah, Goofy Jace was a good, 17 to 20 points under his projection last week. So yeah. I think, Jones and Kamara are usually pretty highly projected. Both of them have been a little more pedestrian lately.
I think, like Sean said, they're going to get Kamara slightly more involved in the passing game. I don't know how you can go, 2 games in a row.
Right. I mean, it only makes sense. But Russell Wilson's been down a little bit too. So, his top 3 that were carrying him a lot. Let's say 4, because Ridley was doing really well earlier in the season before he got hurt. But yeah, it was Russell Wilson, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara. Pretty much his points were right up there at the top of the roster. And then Ridley was having some really good games earlier on, and he's back in there now. But yeah, he hasn't been steamrolling. He told me in a message, I want to get that steamroller nickname back, and he hasn't quite gotten there. He's not steamrolling it. He's been getting some wins, but it's been a lot closer than it was to start out the season. What do you think, Sean?
I'm just looking at Skippy Dogs, and I'm trying to look how he can not play Le'Veon Bell, and he doesn't have any options, unfortunately. Le'Veon Bell playing for Kansas City against Tampa Bay, which is historically very good against run. I mean, I get it. I have to start CEH this week against them, but with not to toot my own horn for my own team, but they have stopped CMC quite a few times, so they know how to stop the run. I think he's going to throw a lot in that game, so I don't think Le'Veon Bell is going to help at all.
No, I was looking at some things earlier that I think Tyreek could go off in that game, even though they're a good defense overall, but their top corner, and I can't recall his name right now. You probably know it, Sean, but he won't move around into the slot. He doesn't go into the slot. Carlton Davis, I think that's his name. Carlton Davis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He doesn't go into the slot, and Tyreek moves into the slot. So that's kind of a potential mismatch there, is Tyreek in the slot. So I'd look for a steady diet of Tyreek. If they can't get that run game going, they'll probably try still, but yeah, Le'Veon Bell, I don't even know. Gosh, if I don't think I'd start him even if it was a favorable matchup. Would you?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, so you're right. He doesn't have a lot of flex options there. Thielen's been good for him. I know Henry doing his thing. Yeah, Lamar's been a little bit down. Yeah, I wonder, does he think about Daniel Jones? Because Daniel Jones has been pretty solid with the rushing upside there.
He gets a nice matchup against Cincinnati this week too.
Yeah. Of course, with the situation in Cincinnati, it could be sort of like a Jets thing where they don't have to keep their foot on the gas and do a whole lot, So to me, that matchup is maybe more Gallman than Daniel Jones. He doesn't probably have to do a whole lot. Gallman just get 20 carries, 15 to 20 carries, and probably can do enough to put that game away. If Jones does anything, it'd probably be early in the game. But it's hard to say. But that's a big one for playoff implications. Mike, when you're looking at the standings, what do you think about that as far as the playoff implications?
Well, yeah, and like we talked about, the top 6 teams play each other, but specifically teams 1, 2, and 3 play teams 4, 5, and 6. So obviously Goofy's second and Skippy is 5th. But if it's going to come down to those points for, Skippy obviously wants to win, but you also have to try to score a lot too.
Yeah.
So even a down week, but a win is, it's okay. But, then you still have to start wondering about how much should Aaron score down there, that kind of thing too.
Yeah, I guess if he gets the win and puts up a good point total, then he could jump up over Skippy Dogs there if he loses to Goofy J. So big game right there, big matchup. And those guys are good buddies, we all work together. Skippy, his name is Mike too, Mike. So Mike moved back to Chicago. We miss him around the office, but they still, talk to each other plenty. And so it's probably the two good buddies, just like you and Sean are good buddies playing each other. So I'm sure they're doing a lot of internal trash talking, not on chat, but
the thing is about teams 4, 5, and 6, they're not just playing the people they're going up against. They're playing the other 5, 4, and 6 teams and A-Bomb defense with championships. Because if he wins, it changes all. If all 3 of us, 4, 5, and 6 lose, and A-Bomb wins, which we think should happen, that just throws a whole monkey wrench into week 13.
Aaron goes right into the playoffs, and we're all out.
Yeah,
it turns things on its heels. Boy, that would be, boy. Yeah, it's getting interesting. Well, let's move on here. 2 more matchups to talk about real quick. We've got Frank's Beauties going up against Tua Time. Let me say his real name because he gets mad at me. But Dalvanize Blue Steel going up against Frank's Beauties. And I look at this matchup on paper, and I see you have your work cut out for you, Mike. What can you tell me about your thoughts going in this one?
Yeah, obviously I've got, an uphill climb. I'm going to bank on the fact that I did give Ian one of his 2 losses earlier this year. I'm going to try to do it again.
Sometimes you got that one nemesis that, well, I should say nemesis because that's for Sean. But you got that one guy that, you just seem to have trouble with.
I do have a few other lineup decisions. Obviously, the Thursday guys are, if they're in, they're set. But, it's going to be one of those where I have to hope for a good week, and I kind of have to hope that Ian has a down week. The CMC news, I know it hurt you. Hurt me too, because now Mike Davis is going to be in. And I'm doing my voodoo magic on Eckler, and I'm hoping I can pull him up this week rather than next week.
Yeah, if he's anywhere, if he can play, I'd certainly put him in there. And if he's anywhere near 100%, he can definitely help you. He might be on a pitch count coming in with being a leg injury. So you never know, but I'd put him in and just hope he gives you, one. He can make one good play that can make your day. You know?
Well, the nice thing about Eckler, and even before when he was healthy and it was his backfield, he was never really a 3-down back. Obviously, he's always been in a shared backfield. Yeah. So a pitch count, I'm not too worried about something like that for a guy like Eckler.
True.
I think if he comes in, I feel like he's his normal workload maybe, but.
I think they've been holding Eckler out just so when he does come back, they don't have to do that. He can come back 100% and be 100%.
Yeah. Well, the one good thing was that you got good production out of Thomas last week, so maybe that can keep going. Maybe he gets in the end zone this week, and if he can put a touchdown with those 100 and some yards, that might be. You might start getting that value that you traded for earlier in the season, Sean, do you have any more thoughts on that matchup?
I just want to go and say I hope Mike Thomas puts, like you said, a couple. We're not talking one. We're talking a couple in the end zone this week because, Claypool, he's good, and he's good for a good amount of targets, but he's kind of touchdown dependent on his points, and Mike is going to need Michael Thomas and Claypool to even come close to a good day for Metcalf and Hopkins.
Well, maybe Mahomes does his thing too. So
come on, Mike.
If Hopkins beats me this week, I'm going to be real upset because Ian took the time to go through and make everybody's nicknames on Sleeper or something, and you misspelled DeAndre Hopkins' own nickname, my dude. I think Commissioner here, I think he should be put back into the pool. It should be up for grabs for anybody if you do that.
A lot of them do that. A lot of them misspell it. He's got an N-U-K.
N-U-K-E, yes.
Oh, he's got an N-U-K-E. Okay, yeah. Okay. Right, it is N-U-K, right? That's the proper. Okay. Yeah, he's got a tough matchup. Hopkins has a tough matchup at corner. I can never remember the guys' names. I just know that I look at the information to see who's playing who, and he's got one of the tougher matchups this week. So maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe he'll look at that and pivot off of him. But he'll probably play him. You got to put in him. You got to put in Nuke. But he's got a tough matchup this week. All right, let's get on to the last one real quick here. The Baba O'Reillys versus the Carsonists. Cousin v. Cousin. Sean, tell me why you're going to win this one.
Yeah, why I'm going to win this one. I'm going to win by running. Josh Jacobs has a pretty good matchup against Atlanta. CEH, he doesn't have a very good matchup against Tampa, but I think he can. I think this is the week he probably comes out and sees a lot of throws, a lot of targets, which is points. And I think I have one question about my lineup right now, and it all depends on if Eckler plays or not. But I'm happy to see Chris Carson come back. He's gonna get it. I'm gonna get you this week.
So strong at the running back. I was a little bummed not to get CMC or Galladay back. I found out today that neither one will be back in there. Got a decent lineup. Those Pittsburgh starts with Deontay Johnson and Connor's a little concerning now that they're pushing that game back. If I have to pivot off those guys, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do there. Not a lot left, so you might be catching me on the right week, but hopefully they get that game in. I mean, it's funny, we haven't worried too much about the COVID stuff here lately, but here we are at a kind of an iffy situation here. So they got some positive tests even, so it's not just the close contact stuff anymore. I will tell you guys that Sean said he wants to beat me so bad that I tell his dad on him. So he wants to beat me down so bad that I got to say, Sean's being mean to me.
Yeah. So, try to your uncle.
Little family dynamic there. And we're going to be watching games together. So, someone may find Sean out on my front yard. I'm not sure. We'll have to see how it goes.
At least I'll be winning.
All right. That's going to do it. Sean, why don't you take us out of here, buddy?
Well, that wraps up the Week 12 pre-show for Week 12 NAO Show. We want to say, I think I can speak for everybody on the show, and we want to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody in the league. We're thankful for this league, especially during 2020, where we need a good distraction week in and week out.
Amen.
I hope I win. Ian, you suck.